Hey, and welcome to my implementation of an AI waypoint system. Here you can see a working demo of the system with pedestrians walking at different speeds in the background and occasionally crossing the road. If I stop this now, I'm going to run through a quick tutorial on how to set this up in the editor and explain how it works. Okay, so in this scene here, I'm going to recreate the demo. Basically what I'm going to do is make a pedestrian system that will walk around this road and cross over it and circle this middle area. Okay, so to do which you'll need to first create an empty in here. I'm just going to name mine waypoints for simplicity's sake, and I'm going to set it to 0. Right, center this thing on 0, and there it is. You can see it, it's just there. You see it's in this terribly made flower that I made. And there you go. Alright, from here we go to tools and we open the waypoint editor that I created and just pull this into place, drag it to here, and the first thing we're going to want to do is drop the waypoints, empty waypoints object into the waypoint root, and now we get this option to create a waypoint. So, now we have this option to create a waypoint. When you click on waypoint, it will create this new empty object with the waypoint script attached. In this, that creates this little bugger down here. So he has a big yellow circle as a gizmo view and a white line, right? This can be used, the white line shows the width of the waypoint, so how wide it is, and from there you can get basically a pedestrian, or whatever you choose to have walk onto this, will walk anywhere along this white line. Anywhere along this white line is where the waypoint is actually placed. So I can make this as long to about 10 or as short as I like if I change it in the editor later. For now we're just going to leave it at 5 because that's the default. If I set this back down to 0 and place it in a reasonable place like this, I can get on to checking out this waypoint. So in the waypoint we have the option of a previous waypoint, the next waypoint, the width, if it branches off to anywhere, and how likely it is to branch. We'll come back to branching later, and we'll come back to this now. Right, so now we've got this waypoint selected. I have more options down here. I can add a branching waypoint, which we'll do later. I can create a waypoint before, create a waypoint after, remove the waypoint, or create a waypoint. Create waypoint and create waypoint after will do the same thing at the current moment. So for now, we're just going to click create waypoint after. Creating a waypoint after will allow me to create this waypoint. This is now waypoint 1. It creates a waypoint after the first waypoint and allows for me to continue going. It automatically assigns the next waypoint on this one to waypoint 1 and automatically assigns the previous waypoint on this one to the original waypoint of waypoint 0. If I go back to waypoint 0 and I click create waypoint before, this now creates a new previous waypoint of waypoint 2. This creates it behind this waypoint and automatically sets the previous waypoint to 2. Every waypoint has a width of 5 by default. So I can rotate these, put them around here, and it is now just as simple as creating a waypoint after, and dragging these into whatever place you want it to be in, right? So you've got these waypoints set out however you want. So for my case, I'm just going to have them looping this little weird flower pot that I've made. Once I'm done with that, it'll just come down. Right, so he comes around. Just want this guy to walk across. He doesn't need many waypoints there. Just place waypoints if you want your pedestrians to walk sort of side to side, because they'll randomize along this line, so it's sort of this idea that they won't walk in this hugely straight line with the more waypoints you add. In my case, I'm not too bothered about that right now. This is just a demo. So for here, we're just going to keep adding some waypoints, hit around this corner nicely, and we get to this point here. So in order to connect these two waypoints up, here all I've got to do is waypoint 14, click on this waypoint, this is waypoint 2. Back on waypoint 14, just drag waypoint 2 into the next waypoint, and we get this little green line. That shows that these two waypoints are connected. So this one's next waypoint is this one. Now I just need to make sure my previous waypoint is also waypoint 14, and as a result we get this little red line. Now between the red and green line is where the pedestrian should end up walking. As long as they don't walk into something or get pushed out of the way, they will stay within this sort of path area. Now, one other thing that can be done with this is branches. So if I select a waypoint and select Add Branch, it creates a new waypoint with a blue line. Now this blue line is just telling you that these two waypoints are branched together. So this waypoint here now has a branch to waypoint 15, and it has a 50-50 chance that when a pedestrian walks over this waypoint, they will walk off that way instead of going to the next waypoint. So we're going to lower that because we don't want them going over the road so much. Set it to 2, and we're also going to give this guy a thing of 2 and add a branch to him back to waypoint 0 because we want them to be able to cross both ways over this road. Right? Create a new waypoint after, create a new waypoint before, and that allows them to walk up and down that road. If a pedestrian meets a dead end, so for instance if they were to walk across this road, hit this waypoint and go this way, when they hit this dead end, instead of crashing out, what the pedestrian will do, it'll check if there's a previous waypoint. If there is no previous waypoint available, then the pedestrian will change directions and walk back to this waypoint and continue on this way as if nothing was wrong. So if I go along here and I quickly fire out some waypoints, just outline this general road area. Doesn't need to be too well done at the moment. It's just getting it somewhat neatly put in there. Show off how it works. Let's drag that one out a little bit more. There we go. There we go. Right. Do this. Do this. There we go. Right. So there's now a little bit of a waypoint system set out. I will actually, in fact, also add a branch here. We'll add a branch there, and that'll branch to, so that's waypoint 11, he's going to branch to 22. Waypoint 11, he's going to branch to 22, there you go, and he's going to have a 20% chance of walking down there. Same as this one. That's waypoint 11, so we're going to go from waypoint 22 to waypoint 11, and that's going to have a 20% chance of walking back as well. That way, pedestrians will now walk both ways. As you can see, the editor gets a little bit of has a couple of errors every time you add a branch, because if you add a branch, yeah, it tells you there's errors because there's no waypoint in there. So if I just remove that branch though and clear this, there's no more errors. You're all good. Right, so from here on, all we're going to do is we are going to quickly add this script, so the pedestrian spawner script, right? I'm going to drag this script onto the waypoint's parent, right? And this gives me a few more options now. Now this is just what it's going to spawn the pedestrians as. So if I just choose my pedestrian prefab, this pedestrian prefab has on it at the moment a pedestrian controller, which just takes the pedestrian will look straight at the waypoint, walk to the waypoint, and then set the next waypoint. It also has a direction of 1 or 2, 0 or 1, and a distance from destination, movement speed, and whether or not to reach destination. Okay. Also checks that it's at what its current waypoint is, and that gets updated whenever it reaches destination. So from here, right, so that's your pedestrian. You can edit this pedestrian controller however you'd like, so you can have pedestrians split off, so you don't have to have them always walking these waypoints. It could be used in a stealth game, or so on and so forth. That can be edited for you to do whatever you may need. If I go back though, however, to the waypoints, here we have the pedestrian spawner. So this will spawn pedestrians all over this. This will populate the waypoints basically. Choose how many you want to spawn. So for the instance of this, we're going to just put on 15. We're going to say set the max speed to about 8, just so we have some relatively good speed, and 3. Actually, let's go with 12 actually. Okay, so the max speed is 12, the minimum speed is 3, so we have a bit of variation in them, as they should spawn with a random speed now. And then all I should now have to do is hit play, and we should get this area populated with pedestrians, and they'll walk up and down these waypoints freely. And there you have it. So that spawns 15 different pedestrians, and they will walk across the road here. Yep, as we thought. Switch back to the scene view. Sometimes they'll walk past it, other times they'll cross across. And the same is said for them going back. If we can see if one goes back. You can go back? Yep, there we go. So they won't always cross, but they will sometimes. As said, when they reach the end of here, they just turn around, and they don't cause any issues there. And that is the pedestrian controller. Each one has a slightly different speed, as you can see. Some over here, this one overtaking that one, and this one over here just going a bit faster than the other. So this gives a little bit more feel. Obviously, if you spawned a couple more in and had a full city, this would help make it feel a little bit more lived in. You could have them walking down the side path, you could have them animated, you could make it look like it actually was a city that was alive, with pedestrians walking down the streets, pedestrians stood in the streets, and so on and so forth. Thank you for looking at my pedestrian AI system.